Alrighty, welcome to the finals here at Grand Prix Las Vegas. I'm Luis Scott Vargas here with Patrick Chapin, and we're going to watch Death and Taxes. There on the left, Andrew Calderon facing down against Jonathan at Semeyn, playing Blue-Red Delver. And taking a look at our bracket, Jonathan Semeyn was the number 2 seed, Andrew Calderon was the number 4 seed, so Jonathan Semeyn is going to get to play first.
Yeah, and you know, as another Delver deck, this is one of the matchups that Andrew was hoping to play against, and obviously a lot of Delver in this top 8 really paid off, but this is not actually the matchup where the Swords to Plowshares that help against so many of the other ones is at its absolute best. You know, without any Tarmogoyfs or any Gurmag Anglers, this is actually the Blue-Red Delver deck that's best positioned to be able to try to, to just make life difficult for Andrew. A combination of lightning bolts and chain lightnings can really give him a fair bit of interaction early. Price of Progress not at its best in this matchup. Still not a blank, far from it, but definitely not at its best.
Yeah, when your opponent has 8 basic planes in their deck and 4 wastelands which don't stick around too long, you don't think Price of Progress is what you're leaning on.
But here we see Swords to Plowshares, and I thought this is just a great weekend for Swords to Plowshares. There's just so many things that can survive both Lightning Bolt and Fatal Push. And I don't just mean Merrill Edge. I mean, like the aforementioned Tarmogoyf and Gurmag Angler. I mean, not Tarmogoyf, but the Gurmag Angler.
So Swords to Plowshares will handle that Monastery Swift Spear, and that's going to leave Jonathan without a threat. He's got double Lightning Bolt, Price of Progress, but isn't making any headway on Andrew's life total here. Fire off a Gitaxian Probe and see the, I would say not great news. Flicker Wisp, Thalia, Phyrexian Revoker, and Batterskull, along with a pair of Wastelands lurking in Andrew's hand.
This is a great mix for Andrew, all things considered. I mean, obviously, it'd be really nice to have an Aether Vial, but having plenty of mana to keep hitting your drops and the ability to both Wasteland and drop a Thalia, or potentially just keeping up the Rashad import, because if he ever drops Thalia with Jonathan without mana.
So Andrew's going to go ahead and Wasteland. He could have played Thalia last turn, chose to use Port instead. We'll see if he repeats that, and it looks like he is. He's going to use Rashad import on upkeep, tapping down that Volcanic Island. Meanwhile, Jonathan's drawn some more bolts. His hand is now 12 points of bolts, 2 Chain Lightning, 2 Lightning Bolt, and a Price of Progress, which is currently only dealing 2.
Right, and it's tricky. It's not even a given. Unlike some of the previous matchups we've seen, it's not even a given that he's going to get that too, because sometimes you'll end up in a spot where if Andrew drops a Wasteland, he can actually protect himself from Price of Progress entirely.
Well, the question is, how many turns is Andrew going to wait before casting Thalia? Because currently he's just on the Wasteland plus Port plan, but Jonathan's got plenty of lands and not a whole lot else to do, so I can't imagine he's too unhappy about this turn of events either.
No, I mean, if your opponent's just going to be on the every turn Port you and Wasteland you could do a lot worse than having no cards you can cast and being a little flooded.
Well, Bedlam Reveler, a little bit difficult to cast.
Long range plan.
Currently there is 1 instant or sorcery in the graveyard, but this could lead to Jonathan start firing off Lightning Bolts.
Now he does choose to leave the Scalding Tarn intact, presumably wanting to have access to Volcanic Island potentially, or Island, depending on which way things go. But also just, that's a land you can't just port. I mean, you can, it's just a lot less effective.
Andrew Calderon plays second Rashad in port and then plays Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. So all of Jonathan's spells cost 1 more. So do all of Andrew's. He just has a lot fewer to cast. And much like other builds of Blue-Red Delver, we see 2 Island and 2 Mountain as basics, but Jonathan is just going to go ahead and get another Volcanic Island.
Yeah, Delver decks can have a pretty big range of land counts, but Jonathan's actually playing 16, which is a little higher than some of the other super low to the ground Delver decks. Some drop as low as 14, but without any Wastelands of his own, I think Jonathan wants just that little extra bit of mana.
So Chain Lightning will take care of Thalia. Andrew's now playing Cavern of Souls. So he's up to actual 6 points of damage from Price of Progress here.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to get to a spot where the Price of Progress could do some very serious damage, particularly if he goes and fetches an island with his Scalding Tarn.
So Flicker was flickered out of planes, letting Andrew port on upkeep. Jonathan used that land that got targeted to cast Lightning Bolt and kill the Flicker Wisp. So Jonathan building towards Bedlam Reveler here. Currently 3 spells in the graveyard, about to be 4 spells once this Ponder gets cast.
Is there any chance we just see he just snaps off the Price of Progress for 6 while the getting's good, or do you think that'll be still open later?
It seems like that would still be open later, especially since Andrew might just play a Caracas or another Rishadan Porter Cavern of Souls.
That would be a great answer to Andrew playing like Caracas and Batterskull in one turn.
So seeing Island, Brainstorm, and Vapor Snag.
It warms my heart to see Vapor Snag so universally, beloved in much the way that Unsummon typically doesn't get the love.
So Jonathan choosing to shuffle those away.
So he's mainly looking for a clock here, right? Like, Monastery Swiftspear would be the dream, but even a Delver of Secrets will be decent at some point.
Well, Storm Chaser Mage, kind of the combination of those two things.
Oh yeah, if you got the mana for it too, but I guess next turn.
Jonathan debating whether he wants to just fire off Chain Lightning here.
Yeah, that's a pretty aggressive stance, but with a Bedlam Reveler in your hand, you got to consider it.
Another Wasteland here from Andrew. He is pressuring Jonathan's mana effectively at this point.
That's the last Volcanic also. And with the Island and Mountain already in play, Jonathan actually only has 2 other land in his deck that make mana. Now, on balance, he doesn't exactly have a lot of cards in his deck that cost any mana.
Storm Chaser Mage and Bedlam Reveler, the most expensive cards in his deck, assuming he, is miracling Thunderous Wrath.
Yeah, because, even if he ever, draws it, at this point, he's just going to miracle it first available opportunity, but Brainstorm, always an option as well for putting back the Thunderous Wrath if drawn from a card like Ponder.
Flicker Wisp again, untapping a land, letting port be used, and once again eating a Lightning Bolt after Wasteland eats a Volcanic Island.
And obviously those bolts not going upstairs is, that's all helpful. Each one of those is making it so that Andrew's further and further away from being burnt out in a flurry.
Here comes Spirit of the Labyrinth and Phyrexian Revoker. I think actual straight 0 effective cards to revoke in this matchup, but it's still a 2-1, and Andrew Calderon drew Umezawa's Jite, which is the kind of card that can certainly swing a game if it can land a hit in.
Yeah, without even so much as a control magic effect, there's nothing, there's no way that Jonathan actually ends up with something that can be activated.
All right, Delver flips off Ponder. Jonathan now decides, do you want to cast Ponder, potentially Chain Lightning, or just get the Storm Chaser Mage out while Rishadan Port is taking a break? He's going to opt to play the Storm Chaser Mage, and that's going to give Andrew an opportunity to land Umezawa's Jite here.
I wonder if you're supposed to name Delver of Secrets and just see.
Yeah. I guess Ponder's not a great play with the Spirit of Labyrinth in play, so I think that's probably a good idea just to play Storm Chaser there. So Jite comes down, is equipped on Revoker. Oof. Andrew attacks for 5, gets 2 counters on Jite, and just immediately uses them both to kill the Delver of Secrets.
Yeah, this is going to spiral out of control very, very quickly if Jonathan can't put together a plan. Even if he kills the Revoker, the Jite can move over to the Spirit of the Labyrinth, and he's so choked on mana. That Flooded Strand in his hand can't even find red mana because all of his Volcanics are gone.
So he's going to choose to Chain Lightning the Spirit of the Labyrinth because that will enable Ponder to actually draw a card.
It's interesting choosing to play the Flooded Strand first. And here it's going to end up potentially costing him, as that Arid Mesa could give him an avenue for producing red mana. Kind of a force of habit in a format full of dazes.
So choosing to keep the Arid Mesa on top, which will allow the casting of Bedlam Reveler, and attacking with Storm Chaser Mage.
That's a very aggressive attack, because that Revoker at 2-1, that's a totally reasonable plan. You block, you give him the counters, but you still kill the Revoker. Well, Mother of Runes comes down, and the window is starting to close a little bit here. Now, he does have that Price of Progress for an implied 6 extra damage, but he's going to need a little bit more than that. I mean, that GT alone is 4 more life.
Ponder, yeah, and that's just not gonna be something that Jonathan can effectively outrace. Ponder, but unclear. What is he looking for at this point?
Well, so it's tough. He still has a very brief window to try to do it the hard way and kill the Revoker with a burn spell right now. If the GT moves over to the Mother of Runes, though, it's going to start getting a lot worse, because if he gets 2 more counters, suddenly the Mother of Runes is not even going to be particularly killable. I mean, with Vapor Snag already gone.
Ooh, second Bedlam Reveler in here because he can't fetch Volcanic Island with Flooded Strand. Like you mentioned before, unable to play either Bedlam Reveler. Also, to be clear, Cavern of Souls was originally named Elemental, so it could cast Flicker Wisp, but it got flickered by Flicker Wisp and presumably named Human on the way back. So, tapping Cavern for Mother of Runes is a legit play.
Now, he's got to be careful because, I mean, you want to get that damage in, but at this point, I mean, you're already just facing down a Revoker with a Jitte with multiple counters. Can you even afford, because now dropping to 7, Andrew's got 7 damage on the table. And that, I don't know. This is a tough spot for Jonathan. Once that Mother of Runes untaps, there's not going to be a whole lot of opportunity to really interact with the Revoker at all. And if the GT goes up to 4 counters, things could get awkward for Stormchaser Mage itself.
Yeah, Price of Progress, unlikely to do it on this board. Verifying that GT is in fact as messed up as it actually is. It is going to make it very difficult for Jonathan to try to kill Andrew through a GT or survive through a GT.
Yeah, in particular, it's going to be tough that even if he Price of Progresses here, on his next turn, he Bedlam Revelers, and he won't have any red mana in his deck. So he's going to be forced to be only on blue cards, and against an active Mother of Runes, even if he draws the 1 Vapor Snag, it won't save him. Andrew taking a look at that Caracas in his hand.
Price of Progress for 6, dropping Andrew to 6. Makes Stormchaser Mage a 2/4, but Phyrexian Revoker is
a 4/3.
If GT got used to pump, then yes. It looks like GT may have been used to -1/-1. Nope, it was used to pump, so GT ends up with 3 counters on it.
So this is going to be a real tough spot. I mean, I guess Brainstorm is a start. No. 2 Rashad imports is just... Well, we do have your Brainstorm here. Keep it going. But with no more mana, I think that's all she wrote.
And that'll do it. Andrew Calderon picks up game 1 here, thanks to Umezawa's GT. A bunch of Wastelands, 3 Wastelands, all taking out Volcanic Islands and some Rashad ports. So,
quite the mana denial elements. But that's one of the reasons to play Death and Taxes. I mean, obviously, you don't just show up with 4 Wastelands and 4 Rashad imports unless you're serious about denying some people some mana. The Delver decks that have been so popular and so successful, they operate on the slimmest of margins. They have so few lands that can even actually tap for mana, and some of them don't have any basics at all. The sideboard here, though, I don't know how much we're going to see, because this is definitely, this, like some of the previous ones we've seen, this is a deck that's already built for fighting Delver Game 1. I think that, Path to Exile has some amount of merit, but even that's a little dicey when you're talking about a deck with 4 basics in it, You don't always want to give them the land in the first place. So, I mean...
Yeah, that seems like it has more of a liability than it would be against us, like the 4-color versions.
Now, that said, I think you do want to move away from these Phyrexian Revokers. So some combination of like Containment, Priest, Sword of Light and Shadow, maybe even Gideon. It's not great. Ethersworn Canonist. You just need some playables. Sanctum Prelate. You need some playables to replace some of these Phyrexian Revokers. And one of the challenges is that Rest in Peace is not at its best here.
Taking a look at the blue-red Delver deck, which has slightly better options for sideboard, has Smash to Smithereens against the various Ether Vials and equipment, whereas, like you just mentioned, Andrew was in the position where he has Phyrexian Revokers, he just wants to get out for anything. Jonathan doesn't have anything in particular he's itching to take out. Price of Progress, not at its best here, certainly, but far from a blank. Grim Lavamancer and Smash to Smithereens looking pretty good.
Yeah, definitely Grim Lavamancer and Smash to Smithereens. I'm not sure I hate Vendilion Click either. It's not like it's at its greatest or whatever, but sometimes you actually just need a flying defense. But maybe I just would want to have a little bit more, like a few more threats against a deck like this, because I think sometimes if you end up on the Price of Progress Fire Blast plan, sometimes you're not going to be super equipped to defend yourself early on. I wonder if there's any chance we'll see Exquisite Firecraft. This doesn't seem like the matchup for it.
No, it's a bit expensive, especially in the face of Rashad Port and Wasteland like we saw last game.
It's pretty gangster just showing up with Exquisite Firecraft after Counterbalance Top gets banned out.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, I just meant it straight up. I just was in for the 4.
Look, sometimes you just got to deal 4 damage,
Trust me, I know. I've played Flame Rift. I know.
So here we see Andrew Calderon, a game away from becoming the first Grand Prix Las Vegas champion and the only person live to win 2 of the Grand Prix here. Whoever wins the Legacy Grand Prix can also win the Modern Grand Prix, which starts tomorrow. No one else has the ability to win 2 of the 3 Grand Prix.
Yeah, nobody in Magic's entire history, right? Nobody has ever won 2 Grand Prix in the same weekend.
No, I don't think that's been possible before. Paul Rietzel came close to winning a Pro Tour and winning a Grand Prix at Paris when Grand Prix and Pro Tour Paris were held in the same weekend. Unfortunately, he actually won neither. He lost in the finals of the Pro Tour, which is a great finish. And unfortunately, because he had to play the top 8 of the Pro Tour, got a match loss in the Grand Prix, so he couldn't top 8 the Grand Prix, though he was, very, very close to it.
Yeah, after he dispatched me in the first round of the top 8, he shook my hand, sent some kind words, and bolted. Apologized for having to bolt, but he was trying to catch his round before he got a second loss.
Well, at least he dispatched you in the top 8. He knocked me out on the way there. We played in the last round.
I didn't realize. I think I might have been close to putting him on tee just because I hung on for so long that.
He's about to time out.
Yeah.
Looks like Jonathan is going to go ahead and mulligan to 6 here, but. Pretty hard to mulligan a 6 that has an island and some ponders. I mean, that's the whole point of playing
Scry coming.
Scry's to the top. And looks like he has Spell Pierce in hand, presumably to stop Ether Vial, but...
Without a second land, I think he's got to just make forward progress, know?
And he just snaps off the ponder, drawing Flooded Strand and choosing not to shuffle. And there is the Mother of Runes, which almost assuredly going to draw a Chain Lightning here. You don't have very many opportunities to cast removal spells on Mother of Runes.
Yeah, Mom is serious. You better do the right thing with your Chain Lightnings or you will get punished.
Flood Strand being forced to fetch Volcanic Island if Jonathan wants access to red mana. It actually really matters in this deck which fetches you draw. In some decks it doesn't matter at all, but this is a deck that the Flooded Strands can get islands or volcanics, but not mountains, and likewise Arid Mesa can get mountains, but not islands. Ooh, there's the Exquisite Firecraft alongside Lightning Bolt and Bedlam Reveler, but somewhat hard to cast.
Land.
Two double red cards, no second mountain.
Good chance of a shuffle here, and we do see it. Yeah, without a second source of red, and only 2 land. The Reveler and the Exquisite Firecraft are basically blanks for long enough that this game could start to slide out of hand. And that, isn't even factoring in the potential Rashad Imports and Wastelands that the next few turns might hold. That last game was traumatizing. You gotta be prepared for somebody that draws this many Wastelands and Rashad imports. They've been practicing.
Oh, yeah. Jonathan picking up a Monastery Swiftspear, and Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Good card to punish mulligans.
Oh, yeah, without question. But at least Storm Chaser doesn't have to pay the tax.
And Storm Chaser heads in for a point of damage here.
Andrew was ready to pick that Thalia up, on another Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt. But now it's going to start sliding way out of hand. If that Wasteland hits Volcanic Island.
This is a big turn because Jonathan didn't play a land this turn. Andrew has to be aware of that. He's got a Wasteland, but he also has a bunch of spells that cost 3 mana.
This was also the window where Caracas wasn't available. Now, potentially, if Andrew doesn't have a better play, which in this case, a Labyrinth Guardian, making that single blue extremely bad.
Jonathan draws a Gitaxian Probe, doesn't do anything with Spirit of Labyrinth in play in terms of card draw.
This one is going to start swinging out of hand very quickly. I'm kind of surprised that Storm Chaser keeps getting in there because you might need to buy a little bit of time against that Thalia.
Well, Andrew did miss a drop. Andrew has all 3s in hand with only 2 mana. He's paying the price for a Wasteland too.
Yep. Monastery Swiftspear does contribute a little bit, but that Storm Chaser Mage continues to beat down.
The land continues to burn. Swords to Plowshares from Andrew's side here. It's actually castable. We'll let him get in for 5 damage if he wants to use it on the Monastery Swiftspear. It's
kind of funny, though, that with Spell Pierce in hand, if that Plow just comes down, yeah, exactly. I was going to say, if that Plow just comes down preemptively, the Swiftspear would hold off Thalia because of the prowess. But Andrew wisely lets that happen, gets in there, and gets his free 2 damage, the Thalia being much more important here.
Unfortunately for Andrew, that attack opens up all of Jonathan's card draw spells. Trading Spirit of the Labyrinth for Monastery Swiftspear just...
Yep, it's a little bit rough in this spot. I wonder about Thalia just attacking on its own. Like, even in the unlikely event of... well, I guess there's not even anything that could happen. The Thalia was already locking out the possibility of a Spell Pierce or a Brainstorm.
Right.
You could have just plowed that. Man, that's tough.
So Jonathan finds a Scalding Tarn. Can't play anything else this turn unless he wants to cast Gitaxian Probe. Andrew needs to find a land here. He finds Caracas. So he can get up to 3 mana, but it'll cost him one of his lands. He gets to tap a Caracas, play another Caracas. Are you Lotus Pedaling Caracas here?
Yeah, I mean, why not? His opponent doesn't even have Wasteland, so if you've got a good play, as long as you've got a good play, rock on.
Sanctum Prelate, going to name a number.
Presumably 1?
Yep. And so now it's essentially a Chalice of the Void for 1. Well, you can't
only
play
for sorceries and instants.
Right. So that locks out Lightning Bolt, locks out Gitaxian Probe, locks out Ponder, locks out Spell Pierce.
Chain Lightning as well. Vapor Snag.
And currently there's 4 spells in the graveyard with Bedlam Reveler, 3 lands. Oof. Not quite at Reveler. And because it's not like Chalice, Jonathan can't even play those spells.
Brutal. Well, he may have to... No, it's too late to even do anything with that Gitaxian. God, maybe the Gitaxian Probe needed to get Gittin while the Gittin was good. Even if you pay the 2 life, the Gitaxian Probe is still a 1-cost spell. Andrew, scintillating with excitement. He can tell this is a great spot.
Wait. Was that enough spells? I don't think he... unless we're missing a spell here.
No, that's right.
Costs 8.
Yeah, there's 8, though. I think there's some glare.
He just discarded 3, but he just discarded his whole hand.
So 5?
And there's...
Okay. I think there's 5 showing. It's all right. But back to the hand anyway, or blinking out anyway.
Well, because there's Ponder, Chain Lightning. Ponder is 4, 5, 6, 7. And you tap 3 mana. That's 7 total. There were 5 spells. Okay, it looks like there was another red spell that we didn't see, or I didn't see rather. Okay. In any case, catching us back up, Bedlam Reveler got blinked. Sanctum Prelate still preventing 1-drop spells from being played.
Yeah, the sorceries and instants are I mean, that's enough to kind of do it here. I mean, what's his hope at this point? I mean, Thunderous Wrath, I guess, does something, but at this point, I think he's just too far behind anyway, right?
Yeah, Flicker Wisp taking Jonathan to 1. Andrew Calderon just on the brink of winning here. Finds another Flicker Wisp with Recruiter the Guard.
This would be a miracle.
All right. Thing is, we get a preview, right? Because if Delver of Secrets gets to look at the top card, does
So
Delver
taste
flip?
the things to come.
Delver doesn't flip,
And
that's
the
game.
hand.
Jonathan Semeyn concedes to Andrew Calderon. Death and Taxes wins the Grand Prix. You have your Grand Prix Las Vegas champion here, Andrew Calderon.
Yeah, if there's one thing you can